alaikum. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Radiant Woman podcast. My name is Sekinat and I am your host. If you're new here, and also as a form of reminder, let me take a few minutes or rather a few seconds to share what this podcast is about. So the purpose of this podcast is to encourage women all over the world to lead radiant lives. And to me, that means living purposefully and intentionally with the overarching goal of getting the very best of this life and the hereafter. I aim to do this by inspiring faith, growth, authenticity, and joy. In this podcast, we'll talk about all aspects of our lives because I do believe that we are a whole that has various components that make up that whole, right? So I would like to talk about all aspects of our lives, from our spirituality to our careers, businesses, family, finances, hobbies, relationships, everything basically. And I do this by sharing some of my experiences in solo episodes, and also by inviting amazing guests to come share their own life experiences and their own expertise as well. In this podcast, we will share with each other. So I do encourage that you respond, you share your own takeaways from the podcast, give your own opinions. That's very much welcome. I'm sure depending on where you're listening from, there is like where you can drop like an audio message as well. You can send in your message, right? You can also put in your comments, right? So we'll share with each other, we'll draw out lessons, we'll reflect, we'll dream, we'll laugh, we'll cry, and most of all, we would grow, So yeah, that's about the podcast, right? So today, what am I talking about? Today, I would like to talk about steps on how to get clear on the work that feels purposeful to us as an individual, as human beings. So if you had listened to my reflections from my 30th birthday, so I had a podcast where I reflected on the past decade, you would have noticed that I mentioned that one thing that has really bothered me in the past was the work that I do, trying to really piece together where I want to play, the role that I want to play in the world, where I want to make my most impact. So that is something that has really disturbed me in the past couple of years, particularly after I finished my master's program. So as a child, I wanted to be a doctor. But when I had finished, when I got to university, I eventually went in for pharmacy, right? And with the thought that, my aim was to help people, right? Make people feel better, So I thought, it can't be so far off. They're both in the medical space, in the helping profession. Right, so I went through 5 years of pharmacy, and by the time I was getting done, reality started to set in. Like, I knew that I didn't really see myself in that space. It didn't. So maybe like on a scale of 1 to 10, it probably just, filled me up to about maybe 4 or 5. And that was mainly the aspect of like counseling, speaking to the patient. Every other thing felt a bit routine to me. And, in my reflection, like I said, perhaps I could have maybe leaned more into it, kind of, learn more and all that, instead of maybe giving up too quickly on pharmacy. I don't know. But I'm not going to dwell on that because I think that's the ship that has sailed for me. And, I have grown into more awareness, so I wouldn't be dealing with that anymore. So anyways, after my master's program, something was definitely missing. And before I'd finished my master's program, I got pregnant with my son. And, things just literally spiraled from there, right? So it was something that was really heavy on my heart. It was, just trying to say, okay, I know that pharmacy is probably not what will give me the level of fulfillment that I have, because for me, being fulfilled with what I'm doing is very important to me. And I do know that people are different. I know that there's some people that, can make do with what they are doing without necessarily, like, it's okay if they are not feeling fulfilled, they can still manage. But that's not really something that I was blessed with in that aspect. Like, I just always want to do something that is really true to me as a person. So, and I also know that I also had a bit of privilege to kind of assist me on that journey. So yeah, I think if you haven't listened to that, the reflections of the past decade, I think you should actually go back to listen to it. You probably will get more insights into what I'm speaking about. But basically, anyways, I didn't want to manage, and that's because I was also aided with the fact that I had a bit of privilege. So I had the luxury of setting out to actually discover more about myself, without like a lot of pressure, basically, in terms of like monetary, providing and all that stuff. But anyways, this podcast is for anyone that is kind of feeling a bit of disconnect, or they are not really feeling fulfilled or purposeful in what they are currently doing. And I'm going to use this episode to kind of share some of the things I have done in the past 4 to 5 years, in trying to really uncover a lot of things about myself, and where I really want to play, the people that I want to serve the most. And hopefully, it's my hope that this kind of shed some light into that. So I've created 5 steps that has helped me along on my journey, and I strongly believe will help you as well. So the very first step, and again, when I talk about work, just as a note, when I talk about work, it can be in terms of like career, business, right? So yeah, it could also be in terms of just like your expressions, like the things that you just like to do, basically. Right. So the first thing is, tune into your inner self. The second thing is find your overarching why. The third thing is discover your bright zone, or your zone of genius, or your strengths, right? The fourth thing is, find your people. Then the fifth and final thing is take action on what you have discovered. Again, this is what I have done in the past couple of years to kind of bring clarity to the work that I do. So the first thing, tune into your inner self. So in the quest for discovering your purpose, right, a lot of self-uncovering and self-awareness is involved. So as a human being, we are constantly in a state of motion where we find it difficult to pause and reflect on what's going on in our lives. And oftentimes this is intentional. So especially as maybe you're a parent, as adults, or something, even living. So I live in Lagos, Nigeria, and just being in Lagos alone is tough and distracting and overwhelming. So yeah, oftentimes it's very intentional. We're just caught up in a lot of things, right? We have so many roles to fill as daughters, sisters, wives, mothers, friends, employees, business owners, and all these things chip away at our time. And if you're not careful, you find it hard to sit and check in with yourself, check in with what you really want. As you age, as you grow more matured, some of your taste changes, some of the things you like changes, right? But because we are always in that state of motion, it's very hard to even sit down to pause, right? So I say this because I have been there, right? And it's still very much a challenge in my life, and I'm sure anyone can relate to this. We are almost always in a state of motion. So that's why we are supposed to build in rest to our time actively. right? So the first thing I would recommend is that you need to create space and time to dream, reflect, think, and I'll add a fourth thing: research. And I think I kind of, should I say, did not pay attention to research initially, or I didn't put it as a point, because it's something that I do like a lot. It's something I enjoy doing, so it's very easy to kind of belittle something that you do. So I'd say four things: dream. You need to create space to dream, reflect, think, and research. I sincerely believe that these are some of the greatest gifts that you can nourish yourself with every day. So I personally do not have any problem with dreaming. My mind runs wild on its own. And the funny thing is, there was a time that I also used to have a problem with dreaming. So in the podcast on Living by Design, I mentioned that there was a point in my life that I had difficulty in even dreaming. But yeah, that's behind now, right? So as at now, my mind is wild, right? It imagines a lot of things. But the thing is, I was dreaming wrongly. I was doing it in a way that was eating into my present, right? So what I then decided to do was I started to dream in a more structured way. So that's what you want to do. If you find that you are a daydreamer, you're someone that dreams a lot and it's eating into your present work that you're doing, or it's eating into your present day-to-day activities, what you want to do is, you want to dream in a more structured way. So, during breaks, for example, I used to dream during my breaks, instead of just when I'm supposed to be working, I'm dreaming, right? Then I used to take out time to reflect at night. During my walks, I reflect and I think during my walks as well, or when I'm doing something that does not require brain bandwidth, basically. So maybe something like cooking. You just need to find times that work best for you based on your schedule or your day-to-day activities, right? So one thing you want to realize that it's not just about randomly dreaming, reflecting, and thinking. And again, mentioning researching is very important. So when you kind of dream of, you imagine stuff, you think, you think about, you reflect on it, you also want to do a bit of research, because what I've found with research is it also opens your eyes to even more possibilities, because you're able to see what is currently happening. It keeps you abreast of trends, so you know where you can possibly plug yourself into, right? So it's not just about randomly dreaming, reflecting, thinking, or researching, right? It's a guided, calculated action where you are putting your ideal work life and authentic needs at the front burner. So I have a quote here that says that nothing happens unless first we dream. So if you don't dream, if you cannot conjure up a dream, then chances are most likely you will just be, doing things on default, right? And that quote was by Carl Sandburg. So a tip for you under this particular tip of, tuning into your inner self is, you want to use your soul in setting intention about what you want to achieve, right? So I am very big on intentions. I know that they are very powerful. So when on my quest to looking for, or to finding, to uncovering work that, fulfills me, I made the intention that, I am actually, this is what I am looking to uncover. It now became active in my mind. It wasn't just something that was just under the surface. I had the intention. So intention is very, very key. Second thing is, you want to use your heart as a reader to tell you what feels right for you. You want to think about what topics, grab my attention. What topics do I like to, speak about? What shows do I like to think to watch? What do you like to listen to, right? What activities do you like to partake in? What do you like to talk about? What do you usually, when you are just maybe daydreaming or something, where do you default to? What are the things that you visualize and dream about, right? Those are some of the tips that can help you to really tune into your inner self. So the second thing is find your overarching why. And when I think about why, I kind of think about like the big picture of, your life's purpose, right? Is that mission that drives literally everything that you do, is what makes you feel inspired, impactful, and fulfilled, right? And one book that I would recommend for this is, Start With Why by Simon Sinek, right? I think it's Start With Why, and there's another one, I think maybe it's Find Your Why, I'm not sure. I know there are two books in that series, but yeah. So most times as human beings, we do stuff that, or we act in ways that speak to our why unconsciously, but it just hasn't been articulated clearly. So most times our why, they're formed at a young age, and perhaps this is the reason why many of us find it hard to pinpoint when we now start growing up, and different things start hitting at us and all that, right? So perhaps that is why it is elusive to pinpoint to some extent. So it is also something that is bigger than you. It's not just about, I want to win this, I want to do this. It's something that goes bigger than you. It's a way that you really want to help others, be of service to others, right? So for someone like me, I've always been the type of person that I didn't like people succumbing to peer pressure. Anytime I did succumb to peer pressure as a child, I always felt so terrible, particularly during my teenage years, because it just felt like I betrayed myself. I was always the type of person that would speak out for people that couldn't defend themselves, right? So to me, it was important that people are able to use their voice, and it's so funny how over the years that got killed for me, but yeah, thankfully, guys, self-awareness is key. It just is very key. But anyways, I digress, right? So when you think about your why, you have to look. Sometimes you need to look to your past, but you're not dwelling there. You just need to look to your past sometimes to answer some questions. The whole idea is to find some common themes and patterns that have been very deep or overlooked over the years, and those themes will serve as a pointer for you. And again, because you're evolving, that's why I say you just need to look at the past. It's not like you're going to dwell there. You evolve, you change, your thought processes change and all that. So but it will give you a glimpse, at least a pointer, a starting point as to how you want to be of service to others. Another thing to note is sometimes it's the experiences of other people, or actually other people, that help us pinpoint or identify the things in our lives, because sometimes again we are so buried in ourselves that we are not able to even see ourselves truly, right? So sometimes it's other people that tell you that I think that you really do good at this. I think that this is what you like to do. This is how best you make an impact and all that. For me, one of my why is to create that space for growth. It's very key for me that people live purposeful lives. It's very important for me that you don't just settle, don't settle, right? And it's very important for me that people are able to find and use their voice in whatever capacity that they can, find the things that they are passionate about and love. I don't believe in settling for something that you do not love just because maybe you need to make money, or it's something that is trendy or something. I'm not that kind of person. So that is like my why. So a few prompts for you under this particular heading of finding your overarching why is do some digging on what you have done for others recently that has made you feel very good. Think about what triggers you, what situations really evoke anger, or strong annoyance with you, that can be a big pointer to things that irritate you that you really want to kind of solve. What have you done in the past or recently that you could have done for free without even thinking twice? What moments have impacted your life significantly? Right, so from there, you might be able to find some common themes that kind of piece stuff together for you. So the third thing is discover your brag zone, your zone of genius, your strengths, basically. And this is where you are doing what where you are doing what you love excellently and using your natural aptitudes effortlessly. It is the zone where you make your highest contribution to the world. It is also the situation where you are doing work that you are proud of and people can easily see and testify that you are excellent at it, right? So your brag zone involves identifying your God-given gifts and your passions, right? So when you're able to align your gifts, your passions with your why, then you are definitely setting yourself up for immense fulfillment and rewards through your work, right? So it's not enough to be passionate about something. A lot of us have lots of things that we're passionate about. So if I sit here and I tell you that I'm very passionate about, justice, I'm very passionate about, what else? Does that mean that, I'm naturally gifted to actually take that passion to the next level? Maybe not. There are some passions that are supposed to be just hobbies, right? It's just something that you are passionate about, but it's probably not what, maybe you should make money from. It's probably not what, you really want to be known for, right? So there are different things. So it's good to be passionate because, passionate gives you that energy, fuels you, but it's not enough. Discovering your gifts, ideally shouldn't be difficult, but because it's something that comes naturally and easily to you, you tend to undermine it, doubt it, or even you don't even recognize it for what it is, right? And having gifts, it doesn't have to be lofty. It doesn't have to be that you can play. You have to be maybe Picasso or Mozart or something, right? Because sometimes when we think about gifts, we think about like extremely talented people, right? Your gifts can be, again, because it's your gifts, you undermine it, right? And you think that your gifts are common to everyone, so you don't see anything special in it. But sometimes, again, we feel like our gifts have to be grand or exotic, and we do not realize that the ability that seemingly feels basic to you is what sets you apart. So for me, one of my gifts is that I have a natural skill or gift of encouraging and supporting people through my words and my presence, right? So and one of my passions is that I have a passion for self-growth and purposeful work, living intentionally, living purposefully, right? And my why borders around seeing a world where people live authentic lives, right? So when you combine all these things together, it's not hard to see how I can be recording this podcast, trying to encourage you to, do stuff that is authentic to you. Why I will try to encourage you to not settle for a career that is not fulfilling you. It's not bringing you some level of joy. I know there's no career that will be 100% perfect, but like they say, choose your heart. What heart do you want to choose, right? What kind of stress? What's your stress? What stress do you want to choose? You want to choose stress that after you finish stressing it, you'll be disappointed or angry and it won't be worth it? Or do you want to choose a stress that even though you are stressed doing the work, at least it's worth it for you, right? So a question or a couple of questions that you want to ask under this is, finding your brag zone is, what do you feel the best when doing it, right? What skills do you admire in others that you feel you could do with a little more effort? So perhaps you see somebody maybe speaking or doing something that you admire and you feel like, do you know what, if I actually put my mind to this thing, I just might do it. Just a little bit of more effort, I just might do it well as well, right? What have people complimented you on that you have never given much thought to? What did you do as a child that came effortlessly to you? What topics do you feel strongly about? And what areas do you usually find yourself helping others solve? Right? Sometimes you might need to get feedback from people around you, maybe your friends, your family, your co-workers. You might want to get feedback from them, because sometimes, like, again, we have these blind spots where we don't really see our own strengths and others are able to see it for us more clearly, right? So those are some questions that you want to ask yourself, right? The fourth thing is find your people, right? Or and when I mean find your people here, I talk about who are the people that you are most drawn to, and this would also spiral into helping you really navigate, like, okay, what kind of industries do I want to work, right? What kind of companies do I want to work as well? So because maybe a certain company is targeting some type of people and you know that those are your people as well, you are most likely able to align with that place of work, with that industry, with that career path, right? I also need to state here that I don't think that there's one career path for a person, but this also goes back to your brag zone. What are those core skills that you have that you can apply in whatever industry you find yourself, regardless of industry, regardless of maybe a career title? What are those core skills? Because those are the transferable skills that you can use based on your interest. And even as you grow and change, right, your interests will change. Once you have those core, once you know your core giftings, you are able to apply it and move on as you change, right? And you are also able to hone it and strengthen your gifts, because just because you have a gift, yes, it might come a little bit easier to you than others, but you still need to practice, you still need to hone it and build expertise on it, right? So find your people. Who are your people? Here you want to think about the people you are most drawn to, right? It might be children, it might be adults like yourself, it might be male, it might be boys, it might be, who are those people? It might be business owners, it might be, who are those people? It could be anything really, and sometimes it might be based on your experiences, what you've gone through in the past, or a gap that you see in like the society or your community. But mostly, usually, like from your own personal experience. So for me, when I went into modest apparel, it was because there was a gap that I saw for myself. So when I was leaving uni and I wanted to start dressing a bit more modest, right? There were not a lot of brands that really gave like nice modest wear that I liked, in like simple wear. So it was a need for me, and that way I was able to really say, okay, these are the type of people I want to serve. So in the world of business, you can liken it to who is your ideal customer, but this can also serve as someone in a career. So like I said, if you know the kind of people that you are drawn to, then you're able to seek out maybe companies that serve those people. Even if it's like you want to volunteer, you're able to seek out organizations, NGOs that serve those people, right? So that way it's a win-win for you. So a reflection or reflections for you is, what kind of people come to you for help or support? What problems do these people have? And what kind of people do you feel naturally drawn to help? So these are 3 questions that might help you to really hone in on, the people, your tribe, the people that you like to solve problems for. And the 5th and very last thing is take action on what you have discovered. So after you've done these 4 things, you have tuned into your inner self, you're discovering more about yourself, you have, uncovered your overarching why, you know your giftings, your strengths, your natural strengths, your brag zone, which consists of like your gifts, your passion, and your why. You've also honed in on like the people that you like to serve, where you like to make an impact, right? Then the last thing, you want to ensure that you take action. You want to test run it, because thinking never gets anyone anywhere, right? You want to really make sure that you are test running. And a good way to do is if you are currently in a job that maybe doesn't really fulfill you, you can seek out maybe something part-time that you can do for a while, just to test run. You can shadow someone that might be working in somewhere that you feel like, you might fit into, just to see that is my hypothesis real? Because it's one thing to think about something and another thing to now go into it, like the reality of it, right? Yeah, so this is very important. It's a very important step, because simply put, action breeds clarity, clarity breeds confidence, mastery, and certainty, right? So you don't want to be guessing, and you don't want to put a lot of it. So for some of us, we might realize that maybe where we want to go, the work that feels purposeful to us, again, it's still a hypothesis, might require like a total maybe career overhaul, might require a large investment, right? Maybe you have to go back to school or something. So you really want to like test run the hypothesis before making or committing such large investments, right? So that's why it's very key that you test run and explore. And because for me, I spent a long time just thinking, dreaming, discovering myself without test running. I struggled because I now started to doubt myself. I started to doubt my gifts. This, combined with the fact that I had and I still have a lot of things that I'm passionate about, it caused a lot of confusion for me, and that's because I wasn't taking action. I was naive to the fact that in order for me to gain clarity, I needed to implement and learn as I go. As you implement, as you take action, it will grant you the ability to confirm your hypothesis. It will also grant you the ability to improve upon what works and eliminate or change direction of what isn't working, right? So you want to reduce doubts and confusion to the barest minimum by taking action. So I have a quote here by Dale Carnegie that says, "In action breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit home and think about it. Go out and get busy." In this journey of finding stuff that feels purposeful for you, or doing things that, executing on things that, bring you joy, you need a lot of courage. And the only way that you will get that courage is, by taking action. When you take one little step and you see the tangible results that it gives you that confidence, it gives you that courage to want to take another step, right? So you just don't sit down and think and dream. That doesn't really solve anything, right? So you want to make sure that you take action. So what do you need to do, right? After we've said all this, right, what do you need to do? I think for me, there are 4 key things, right? After you've done all these things, right, you want to set your intention. Again, back to the power of intention. Once you set an intention, it makes it active in your mind's eye, right? You want to write your goals. You want to formulate a strategy or plan to achieve your goals. So if you've now discovered that, this is probably where I want to go, you want to write it down and try to think about an action plan to achieve that goal, and you want to execute. Execution is very, very, very key. Yeah, so we are done with today's episode of the Radio Woman podcast. It has been a honor to be able to share about this topic, because I think it's something that I'd written about it sometime last year, so it feels so good to be able to share with a wider audience. Mashallah. Right, so I have been talking about purposeful work, and I think this is a good time to mention that I am finally delving into the world of coaching, and my very first project will be around living by design. This is a topic or an area that is very dear to me. I'm very passionate about it because I think that it has changed my life so beautifully, and I just want, every woman to feel that same way. So if you're the type of person that has been feeling that always feels overwhelmed, confused, or you feel like you need some type of clarity or control, I have done a free video training on the 3 mindset shifts that you need to kick overwhelm in the butt, literally. And I have linked it to the show notes below, and you could go watch it from there. You could also feel free to share if you know someone that might benefit from it. I'm also open to your feedback, and I am excited for this journey. Right, so as usual, do not forget to like if you actually enjoyed the episode, share, subscribe, and of course share your feedback and your thoughts with me as well. All right then, enjoy the rest of your week. Assalamu alaikum.